Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any Watchbox watch. Reach out to me for pricing, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we're discussing a watch launched during Omega Watch Days in the spring of 2022. This is the Omega Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch in Moonshine Yellow Gold. We first saw it in the 2019 collection as an accenting color on the Apollo 11 anniversary model. Now we see the entire watch, dial included, crafted from this unique pale yellow gold. More on that in a moment, but first, dimensions. 42 millimeters in diameter. I measure this watch 13.3 millimeters thick, and from lug tip to lug tip 47.5 millimeters with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. We'll throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and you can see that even relative to my cuff, it's actually pretty thin by Moonwatch standards. 13.3, that's about 9/10 of a millimeter more than a Daytona, but thinner than a lot of Moonwatches. As a result, you'll have no trouble fitting this beneath a jacket sleeve. Maybe the tightest of dress cuffs could have a little bit of trouble with the overhang of the bezel, but for the most part, this is an easy one to wear. Thinner than most Moonwatches and narrower across the wrist because it's on a strap rather than a solid end-link bracelet. Now, those solid end-link bracelets can really swell a Moonwatch's physical footprint, so this watch is suitable for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters in circumference since it's just 47.5 lug-to-lug and no bracelet. A really good-looking watch that fits wonderfully, and it has something that's uncommon on Moonwatch models, which is a integrated factory rubber strap. Now, you can see it's got this satinated texture along the top with a bit of a matte finish. Call them almost bevels on the side. As you can see, there are some striations molded in that give it a little bit of character lines. They swell adjacent to the apertures for the buckle. And you can see how this integrates with the case flank, closing the gap completely so there's no daylight visible, giving it a handsome all-of-a-piece look. The strap is fairly thick where it joins the lugs, but it thins out rapidly for flexibility. We've got a lovely twin trigger, double finished, satin and polished, single fold deployant clasp. You press the two triggers, not one, both, so it's not going to open inadvertently, and that gives you a degree of security on the wrist. You can see that inside we have two different finishes, engine turning and then satination, and we've got these little two tabs and the pin itself within the buckle. Those things grab the strap, hold it in place, and then all the extra strap length sits underneath these straps. There's no need for minder loops, and people always ask me, what do I mean by that? These are minder loops. This watch doesn't need them. It doesn't have them because all the extra length, once sized, is under the strap. Taking a look at the bottom of the strap, you can see there's a moon surface-like texture. So all of this has been carefully thought out. This is anything but a generic strap. It was designed with this model specifically in mind. We know this case well, lyre-style lugs. So we have the inward twist bevel and the outward twist. The outward twist is polished, the inward twist is satinated, the mid-case is satin. You could see that the underside of the bezel has been polished. We have this shear guard profile for the crown as well as the chronograph pushers. This has been around since the first Speedmaster Professional in the mid-60s. The dial is made of solid gold, and I do mean solid gold. You could see AU750. Omega dials are generally stamped with their chemical composition. So that is exactly what we are looking at here. 18 karat yellow gold. We have blackened hands with the exception of the sub-registers, and then we have blackened applique indices. We also have a bezel that is made of ceramic, so it's Ceragold, so it's ceramic for scratch resistance, and then the gold is permanently bonded so it can never separate. We have some vintage elements like the dot over 90, but for the most part, this is a forward-looking modern moonwatch. Now, moonshine gold, what is it? Well, it's a very pale yellow gold that looks, to my eye, a little bit like a vintage 7, 9, or 14 karat gold watch. It's actually 75% gold, so it can be 18 karat, 75%, but then the secondary, tertiary, and so on elements are silver at 14.5%, copper at 9%, and then palladium at 1%. So you get this different tone, a resistance to fading, oxidizing, or changing with time. And it does give you that very pale, straw-like gold color. Now this is a sapphire sandwich, so sapphire across the back and a bubble plexiglass like sapphire across the top. So it gives you a little bit of that Hesselite camber and box section loft, but it's very much sapphire. We'll do a quick loom shot here. As you can see, the watch is well loomed, including the chronograph seconds hand, so no problem comprehending. We have dished sub-registers in black, and it's a nice tone-on-tone look with the black on the gold. And we have that same moonshine gold used for the dial that's used for the case. We have an applique Omega logo and all applied indices, so this is much more upscale Moonwatch. Now turning it over, we're going to decouple the strap from the buckle here. We have a new movement, or at least it's still a fairly new movement, judging by the decades-long lifespan of your average Moonwatch caliber. Still distantly Lemania based, this is the now 3861 reference. So what changes? Well, first, it's a coaxial chronometer, master chronometer. Goes through the Matas process, so 6-position testing is a fully cased-up watch, meaning this whole watch goes through shock resistance, anti-magnetism, water resistance, power reserve, and chronometry, and it's a 6-position, fully assembled chronometric test, not 5 positions as a bare movement like the COSC. Power reserve's now 50 hours rather than 48. It's still a 21,600 vibration per hour beat rate, but the balance is now free-sprung with an anti-magnetic silicon hairspring. In fact, being a Matas or master chronometer, this is going to be effectively amagnetic, tested to over 15,000 Gauss. Also new, we have a hacking seconds function. So if you pull the crown out, you stop the operation of the movement. You can set this Moonwatch to the second now for the first time. 18 joules becomes 26. It is a coaxial escapement, even though you cannot see it. We still have a cam and lateral clutch arrangement because it's just very, very tough. I defy anyone to claim that they could tell this is a cam as opposed to a column wheel. I have experienced quite a few underwhelming column wheels in my lifetime, and I've basically reached the conclusion that it's the tuning of the mechanism rather than the inherent architecture that makes for great tactile chronograph feedback, and this watch definitely has that. So 50 meters water resistant, which I generally don't consider to be swimmable with a push-down crown, but according to Omega itself, the Moonwatch with its 50-meter water resistance is surface swimmable, and this watch with its rubber strap is definitely a candidate to get wet, so bottoms up perhaps? Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details of this Omega Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch in Moonshine Gold.